I walked up to the counter and asked the clerk if there were any messages for me. He checked the box for room 305, pulled out a piece of paper and handed it to me. As I read it, the two men who had been sitting in the lobby when I entered got up and headed toward me. I read the note. It simply asked me to call Detective Howard Miller and gave me a phone number. Two men walked over, stood on either side of me, and the one sitting on my right asked if I was Frank Thomas. Yes? He showed his badge and said, I'm Detective Larson, and the gentleman on your left is Detective Phillips. Yes? And how can I help you? This note in your hand is from Detective Miller of the Branson Police Department? It's from Detective Miller, but I have no idea where it's from. Apparently, he called and left a message a little after 9 o'clock this morning, and when you didn't return his call, he called us and asked if we could find you. Can we ask where you've been all day? Why? What does that mean? Could you distract us for a moment and answer the question? From 8 to 9, I had breakfast here in the hotel restaurant with a couple of acquaintances. From 9 to noon, I attended a seminar in one of the hotel's conference rooms. From noon to 1 o'clock, I had lunch with some of the people I met at the seminar. And from 1 o'clock to 4:30, I attended the afternoon session. From 4:30 to 6 was the post-seminar cocktail hour. From 6 to 7:15 or so was dinner at the hotel restaurant. And from 7:15 to 5 minutes ago was drinks at the Boom Boom Room. Now it's my turn. What's the matter? I think it would be best if you talked to Detective Miller about it. One last question. Where were you last night between midnight and 4 o'clock? In bed? Sleeping. Can anyone confirm that? Why do I need someone to confirm that I was asleep? Again, you need to find out from Detective Miller. I shifted my gaze from Larson to Phillips and then walked over to the house phone. I asked the operator to charge the call to my room and then called the number on the note to Detective Miller. Apparently, it was a cell phone, because despite the late hour, the third ring was answered for me. Hello? Detective Miller? Yes. My name is Frank Thomas, and I have a message to call you. Oh yes, Mr. Thomas, you're a hard man to get in touch with. I've been in meetings most of the day. I only got your message now. I have 2 local police officers with me right now, and they are asking me questions, but they won't tell me what's going on. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you, Mr. Thomas, but your wife is dead. How? What? She was fine when I spoke to her last night. What time was that? About 6 o'clock. Where did you call her from? From my hotel room. Sometime between midnight and 4 o'clock this morning, she was murdered. Murdered? Yes, sir. It seems someone broke into your house and killed her. Oh, my God. Holy shit. Any idea who did it? Was it a botched robbery? Was anything stolen, like TVs or VCRs or anything like that? I can't talk about this over the phone, Mr. Thomas. We'll discuss the details when you get home. I'll try to get on the first flight in the morning. May I speak to the officers with you? Sure. I handed the phone to Larson. I'll be in my room packing. I need to call the airline and leave some messages for the seminar people. On the flight home, I thought about Melissa. We'd met at a cocktail party, and I'd fallen in love with her at first sight. Fiery redhead, with a face that lit up the room when she smiled, and a body made for sin. She was with someone, and since there were quite a few people at the party that I wanted to do business with, I had to keep my cool. I waited until I caught her alone, and when no one was looking, I handed her a piece of paper with my name and phone number and a short message. Call me. She called me the next day and asked why I had assumed she would call. Doing nothing. Getting nothing, I said, and the British military has a motto that fits this situation just fine. He who dares, wins. How can I miss the chance to meet such a confident man? You really shouldn't. She gave me her address, and I picked her up at 6 in the evening for dinner. She had the complete package: looks, wit, charm, and intelligence. On our third date, she told me we would be dining at a restaurant, and I just needed to bring wine. When dinner was over and the bottle of wine was empty, she took my hand and said, I hope you weren't planning on leaving early. We need to figure out if we have a future together." She led me to her bedroom and started on me. The woman was insatiable, but apparently I could handle it, because the morning after another stormy sex session, she said, "You can do it." 9 months later, we were married. My musings were interrupted by the announcement, "Please bring seat backs and tray tables to the upright position," as we prepared to board. I had called Miller in advance to let him know what flight I would be on and when he would arrive. He and his partner, Detective Paulson, were waiting for me when I got off the plane. After introductions, he asked me to ride with them to the station, and I said I would pick up my car from the parking lot and either follow them or meet them at the station, and he replied that they would really prefer that I ride with them. "I wouldn't. I'm here. My car is here. And there's no point in driving downtown with you and then turning around and coming back here to get my car. So unless you're going to arrest me, I'll take my car." One might wonder why you're not being very cooperative, Mr. Thomas. No one in my situation would ask that question. How about we cut the dance a little shorter? My wife was murdered, and we both know I'm a suspect, even though I was almost 400 miles from the crime scene and can prove it. We both know that the officers you spoke to last night are checking everything I told them before calling you. We both know you didn't tell me anything about what happened to my wife when we talked last night. You just said we'd talk about it when I got back here. And now you want me to just walk away and leave my car here? That tells me you don't think I'll need it yet, which means you've decided I'm your man and expect to see me behind bars before the end of the day, so my car can just sit there. And you expect me to cooperate? Cooperation is a two-way street, Detective. He looked at me, then nodded his head. Looks like we're starting off on the wrong foot. He looked around, then pointed to one of the many eateries scattered throughout the terminal and said, "Let's sit down at a table, have a cup of coffee, and I'll bring you up to speed." As we sat down for a cup of coffee, Miller said, "Yesterday, at about 9:10 in the morning, a friend of your wife's, one Mary Osborne, came to pick up your wife for a prearranged shopping date. When no one answered the doorbell, she tried the door and found it open. She called out to your wife and got no response. She checked and saw that your wife's car was still parked in the garage and, thinking that your wife may have overslept, went upstairs and found your wife dead on the bedroom floor. She called emergency services, but according to the coroner, your wife had been dead for at least 4 hours when a friend found her. You said she was murdered. She had been shot twice. Why do I get the feeling you're not telling me everything? Because you're not. There is a procedure that must be followed in cases like this. There must be a formal interrogation at the station, which will be recorded. I've already told you more than I should have. Go get your car and meet us at the station. Should I bring my lawyer with me? That's up to you. You certainly have the right to do so. As a policeman, I must admit that I don't want you to exercise that right. Lawyers have a habit of interrupting all the time, and it interferes with the flow of the interrogation, and the smooth flow of the interrogation itself may tell the interrogator something. So I'm going to be interrogated? Of course you will. You said so yourself. Until you are cleared of suspicion, you are a person of interest in terms of the investigation into your wife's death. We finished our coffee, and I took the shuttle to get my car. At the station, I was escorted to a room where I was joined by Miller and Paulson. They warned me that the meeting was being recorded and asked if I wanted an attorney present. I replied that I did not. I was asked about my whereabouts on the night in question, and I told them the same thing I had told the detectives at the hotel. Paulson then asked, "Do you have a gun?" "Several." "Oh? Got a .22 caliber?" Number mostly a Colt .45 caliber and a Glock .40 caliber. Mostly? I might have a couple .357 Magnums, but I'm not sure. How can you own them and not be sure? I don't actually own them, my company does. Your company? Paladin Security Services. You own Paladin? Yes, I do. He pondered this for a couple seconds, then asked, "Do you know Robert Turner?" I've never met him, but I know who he is. What do you know about him? Well, I'm not exactly in the know, but as of last week, he was my wife's current lover. You know about that? Yes. I think it was around the beginning of April when she was dating him. Maybe you should get a lawyer in here, Mr. Thomas. Why? Because you just admitted that you know Robert Turner is your wife's lover, and Robert Turner was found dead in the bedroom with your wife. And you have decided that I, as an indignant husband, killed them both in a fit of jealousy? That is absurd. If I was going to kill someone in a fit of rage, it would have been Ronald Porter. He was the first person she cheated on me with. There were at least 4 others after Porter, and I didn't touch a single hair on any of their heads. You know all this for a fact? I have private investigators' reports on them. And you did nothing? I saw the look on Paulson's face. It said, "You pathetic, characterless bastard, what kind of man are you?" I thought to myself, "Fuck you," and replied to Miller. Have you ever gone through a divorce or know someone who has? I haven't, but I know several people who have gone through it. And how did the person come out on the deal? Not very well, I'm afraid. That was my problem. I've gotten a pretty good deal myself. My house is worth a little over $3 million, and the business I've worked to build is worth about 10 or 12 million. It's a no-fault state, so even if Melissa were caught cheating, she'd get half of everything. I'd have to sell the house and business, give half to Melissa, and then pay court costs and attorney's fees and probably end up paying that bitch a year in alimony. And yet that's a motive. Maybe. But it wouldn't make sense for me to kill her and risk going to jail if I got rid of her for free in another 9 months. How so? She was supposed to become a trust fund member when she turned 30, which is only 9 months from now. That's somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 million. Then we'd have equal assets, and I could divorce that whore and keep everything I own. In fact, the fact that she killed herself now takes away my opportunity to win. If she had waited until she was 30 to take her own life, I would have gotten the inheritance. As it is, all the money will go to a bunch of charities. I should have lived with her for another 9 months. You never told me. How did she die? 2 shots in the forehead. Turner got the same thing. 2 shots in the forehead. 2 shots to the head? Doesn't that ring a bell? Should it? Did you check out Turner's wife? She has a solid alibi. No surprise there. She would have. Did you check her family? Her family. Her father is Vito Genovese, and if even half of what you've heard about him is true, he'll have no problem finding someone to help him with the problem his darling daughter brought him. Family honor and all that other crap. Isn't a double blow to the head a sign of mob-style murder? Miller and Paulson looked at each other, and I saw the wheels spin. Miller looked at me and asked, "Can you back up what you say?" I have the private investigators' reports on her lovers. I can give you the name of her attorney, and I believe you can get the trust fund information from him. Some of the information on Genovese is in the private investigators' report I got on Turner. Did your wife know you were aware of her activities? I don't think so. I acted like an ignorant husband to her. She was damn good in bed and never turned me down, and I wasn't going to go without sex until she was 30, and I wasn't going to play outside the marriage and give her a chance to catch me and divorce me. I don't think we have anything more to ask for at this point, but please keep us posted on your whereabouts in case we need to talk to you again. As the casket with Melissa's body was lowered into the pit, I looked around at the gathered mourners and wondered if any of them had any idea what had happened. When I graduated from college in my 20s, I wasn't ready to settle down. I wanted to do something interesting, take some risks, and enjoy life before plunging into a 9-to-5 life with a June Cleaver-type wife, a house with a fence, and 2 or 3 kids. Clinton was sending troops to Bosnia, and there was bound to be something interesting going on, so I joined the Army. I didn't even go through basic training. In the 3rd week of training, some clowns in my platoon decided they needed to teach a college kid some manners and threw me a blanket party. I was in the shower when it happened. Covered with a blanket and hugged by several guys, I had to be helpless when they started beating me with socks filled with bars of soap. I've never practiced martial arts, and I don't even know why I did what I did. Perhaps it was something I saw in a movie and subconsciously remembered. I swung my foot hard, not kicked, but swung from right to left and knocked the legs out from under one of the guys. He fell, hit his head on the shower room floor, and one of the others said, "Jesus! He's bleeding!" One of the guys let go of me to bend over and examine the guy on the floor. That loosened the grip on me, and another leg kick knocked another guy down who fell to the floor. Suddenly, the guys holding me weren't enough, and I jerked free of the ones holding me and got out from under the blanket. Two of the men were lying on the floor, a third was leaning over them, and the two that were standing were looking at me with a "wow, this is not what was supposed to happen" expression. I grabbed one by the arm and slammed his face into the shower room wall with a swing, and he fell. The other guy started to back away, and the one on his knees started to get up. I decided that I'd rather let him lie down than get up, so I hit him in the face with my knee, saw blood coming out of his broken nose, and as he started to fall, kicked him hard in the ribs with the heel of my foot. I rushed over to the one who was still on his feet, and he turned and ran. The first guy I knocked the legs out from under him didn't move, but the second guy did, so I fell on my back, grabbed his head, and smashed it on the floor. By this time, the platoon sergeants had come up. Sergeant Marks saw the blanket and soap-stuffed socks and immediately realized what was going on. I tried to walk past him, and he asked me where I was going. "There's another bastard out there, and I'm going after him." "No, you're not." I tried to go around him, and he said, "Stop it, Thomas. I don't know how you dealt with them, but it won't be so easy with me. Now stand there while I take care of this." It was sorted out, and I found myself in the post office. On my second day there, I was called to a room where the captain was sitting at a desk. On the way from the cell to the room, the MP who accompanied me told me that I was to go in, stop 6 feet in front of the desk, salute, and say, "Private Thomas, reporting as ordered," and hold the salute until it was given. I stopped in front of the desk and said, "I am Private Thomas." "You haven't forgotten anything?" "I don't think so." "It should be, 'I don't think so, sir,' and what you have forgotten is the salute." "I haven't forgotten the salute nor sir. Both are a sign of respect, and I don't respect people who treat me the way they treat me just because I was defending myself. You sent 4 people to the infirmary. Doesn't that bother you at all?" "The only thing that bothers me is that Sergeant Marks wouldn't let me make it 5. "What does it take to get you to start saying, sir? You do something to earn my respect." That began my long association with Lieutenant Captain Major Colonel Jones Smith, or whatever his real name was. Apparently, my take-no-prisoners attitude interested a certain part of the United States Army. I was taken from my main unit and sent to an undisclosed location where I received training that few other recruits received. I learned how to use guns, knives, sticks, and rocks. I learned how to pick locks, hook up cars, create false documents, fly small airplanes, small boats, and a host of other things, and then I was set free. The oath I took when I enlisted stated that I would defend myself against all enemies, foreign and domestic. But the foreign part never figured in it. You would be amazed at how many internal enemies America had, and our way of defense against them was to destroy them. Accidental drownings, falls from ladders and broken necks, and automobile accidents were just a few of the ways we dealt with problems. This kind of work makes you paranoid. You start asking yourself what will happen to you if the surgery goes wrong. What if they need a scapegoat? What if something happened and the best solution would be to disappear or have your body found with incriminating documents or something? Given what they were forcing you to do, you just knew that if your elimination was required, they wouldn't even hesitate. In the 6 years I spent with the group, I hid money, weapons, and documents in 6 places. If disaster struck and I needed to leave, I had a few loopholes. I never needed them, but I had them. When I got my furlough, I went into the security business. In short, my company supplied security specialists, which in shorthand means bodyguards and armed guards for various companies. I had already been working for a year when I met Melissa at a cocktail party, dated her, and then proposed to her. We had what I thought was a good marriage. We had been married a little over a year when I woke up one morning, looked at Melissa sleeping next to me, and realized she was cheating on me. I hadn't seen or heard anything that made me think that. I just woke up one morning, looked at her, and realized. Of course, that wasn't enough to confront her, so I hired a private investigator, and within a week, I had all the information on Melissa and one Ronald Porter. With that information in hand, I had to decide what to do. Actually, I knew what to do. The tricky part was doing it and getting away with it. At home, Melissa was loving and affectionate and never refused me in the bedroom. In fact, at least half the time, Melissa was the instigator. I had no idea why she was cheating, but I didn't need to. All I knew was that the marriage would last as long as I made plans. I checked on Melissa periodically over the next few years, and she had at least 4 other lovers. There may have been more, but if so, they occurred during periods when I wasn't checking on her. I kept this information to myself for the time being. I learned to fly while in the military, but it was due to operational requirements, and I never felt passionate about it or even sympathy for it. It was just something I occasionally had to do as part of an operation. Having retired from the service, I had no hope of flying again, except as a passenger on a commercial airline. Using one of the fake identities I had stashed while in the service and some money I had stashed away, I bought a Cessna 172, a Honda Accord, and a Harley. From one of my gun stashes, I selected a .22 caliber pistol with a silencer and waited for the right opportunity. It came when I received a private investigator's report on Robert Turner and who his father-in-law was. I was constantly being invited to seminars and trade shows, and when I was invited to a seminar on industrial safety, I accepted. At the end of Monday's program, I stayed for one more drink and then went to my room. I called Melissa and let her know where I was staying, told her I loved her and missed her, and she responded in kind. I chose my hotel because it was one of the few in the area that didn't have security cameras in the lobbies and stairwells. Once in my room, I changed into jeans, tennis shoes, a sweatshirt, and a windbreaker. I put on a cap, a fake mustache, and glasses with clear lenses. I walked down the stairs and out the side door, then walked 6 blocks and 2 more blocks and caught a cab. It took me to the other side of town and dropped me off at a bar. Once the cab was out of sight, I walked 2 blocks to the motel where I had pre-parked the Honda Accord. I pulled into the airfield where the Cessna was parked, filed a flight plan for Athens, and then took off. Once in the air, I closed the flight plan and headed home. The flight took a little over 3 hours, and after I landed and tied down the Cessna, I got into a pre-parked Harley and headed for my house. I parked 2 blocks from the house, walked, and quietly entered the house. Walking into my home office, I pulled out a bag that was in the closet and opened it. I pulled out a pair of latex gloves and a pair of boots and put them on. I pulled a stun gun out of the bag and double-checked that it was fully charged. Everything ready, I quietly moved down the stairs towards the bedrooms and discovered I had gotten a bonus. I expected only Melissa to be there, but I realized from the sounds coming from the room that she wasn't alone. Moving quietly down the hallway, I could hear my wife begging harder, faster, and begging my partner to make her finish. I entered the bedroom and immediately recognized the man who had slept with my wife as her last lover, which was a pleasant surprise. Melissa saw me, her face went pale, and she screamed. Turner turned, saw me, and broke free of Melissa just as I shot him with the stun gun. He fell to the floor and started floundering, and I quickly walked over to the bed, grabbed Melissa, and shoved a gag in her mouth. I handcuffed her to the bed, and then with the butt of my gun, I hit Turner in the head and knocked him out. I went downstairs, grabbed a sharp knife from the knife block on the kitchen table, and went back upstairs. I smiled at Melissa and said, "That's nice of you to invite your buddy. I was expecting to catch you here alone. Silly me." I rolled Turner over onto his back and waited for him to come to his senses. While I waited, I talked to Melissa. "Did you have a good time, wife?" Is Turner better than Porter? Why did you dump Porter? Because Hathaway was better? But if you were always looking for better, it followed that Prince was better than Hathaway. Davidson was better than Prince. Damn, girl, that doesn't say anything good about me, does it? As I spoke, Melissa was crying and trying to crawl away from the bed, and finally Turner stirred. I looked at Melissa and said, "If Turner is so much better than the others, it must be because you really like him. And who am I to deprive you of what you want?" I reached down and took Turner by the throat in my left hand, and looking him straight in the eye, said, "It's not nice to have sex with another man's wife, especially in his house and on his bed." And then I cut off his dignity and held it in front of Melissa's face while Turner screamed, thrashing and thrashing around on the bedroom floor. "Here it is, Melissa, yours to have and hold forever." I picked up the silenced pistol, pointed it at Turner's forehead, and said, "I hope she was worth it, motherfucker," and put 2 rounds in him. I turned to Melissa and asked her, "I guess I'll never know why you stabbed me in the back with all those assholes over the years, because I'm not going to take what's in your mouth out so you can talk. I just hope all the good times you've had were worth the price you have to pay. It really is a shame, Melissa. I loved you, didn't I?" I pointed the gun at her forehead, and her eyes got really big before I pulled the trigger and closed them for good. I removed the gag, uncuffed her, and then cleaned the brass. I put everything in my bag and left the house. 4 hours later, I was back in my hotel room, and the clock on the bedside table showed 5:15. I slept for 2 hours, then got up, had breakfast, and went to the seminar. I watched the coffin being lowered into the ground and went over every possible scenario in my head. I was sure I had everything covered. A check of my Army record would show that I had spent all my time in Quartermain working in the supply depots. Nothing of interest. The lack of an alibi was supposed to serve as an alibi of sorts, since if I did the dirty deed, I would be expected to back myself up. I would wait a couple of weeks and then organize a business trip and, while there, use my fake ID to sell the Cessna and Accord. I left the Harley where it had a damn good chance of being stolen and couldn't be traced anyway. As I stepped forward and lowered the single red rose onto Melissa's casket, I figured all I had to do now was act normal and wait.